Hi everyone. Okay, so I tried making this video before and I was all ranty. Well, not ranty. I was not ranty. I was very rambly. Very, very rambly. Anyway, and since that point in time, something else happened which made me want to make a different video instead. And so I watched this video today that Stefan Molyneux actually published today, probably fairly recently since he responded to me. And it was about reincarnation. And this guy, he called in and he's like, okay, so I have this idea and is reincarnation possible and blah 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 and all this stuff, right? Just a question. And it's obviously this guy, when he talks, he's very, you know, out there and rambly and has ideas that just go whichever way and so forth, and very much like me, which is why I get very rambly. Hard for me to stay on topic. Anyway, trying really hard right now. Anyway, so Stefan Molyneux, motherfucker, he is rude, okay? And that's why I'm a little upset right now. My energy is just a little bit higher because I'm just teensy bit upset. And anyway, so this motherfucker, he has this guy on his show, and from the get-go, Stefan Molyneux is not listening to him. The first thing that Stefan Molyneux does in this phone conversation with this guy is, as this guy is explaining why he thinks what he thinks, Stefan Molyneux is laughing at him, which to me just shows completely not like even considering it at all. No openness to it at all. Just completely closed off from the get-go. Because reincarnation, that's fucking ridiculous, right? Maybe, I don't know, but let's hear the guy out. Let's hear his ideas. Let's converse with him. So the first thing he does is he starts talking about his ideas, right? And so Stefan asked him about his experiences. Well, because, and I understand that rationally, your ideas and beliefs are fed by your experiences and the things that you have either been taught or heard about, or so on and so forth. There's, you know, and so he starts asking about his experiences and stuff, and the guy couldn't really pinpoint a specific reason why he became spiritual, and you know, you can see this from the beginning. Stefan's not interested in talking about the ideas. He's interested in this guy and why he thinks the way that he does. Meanwhile, the guy wants to talk about the ideas. So it's a disconnect to start off with, and I think it's kind of disingenuous of Stefan to do that without telling him first, you know, like, hey, I know you want to talk about this, but I'd really, I don't know. And maybe Stefan didn't even realize that he was doing it. And so he's talking with this guy and so on and so forth, and there's another part of it that I don't know, you can just tell, like, and the other part of it was, like, this guy who called in obviously wasn't, like, a seasoned debater. He didn't have, like, his sources and resources with him or anything like that. And he'd been mentioning this guy who looked into reincarnation, and Stefan Molyneux, like, had the information right in front of his face on a screen, and it was, like, asking him questions about it, and it was like, so why didn't you look up counterpoints to this guy's theory, and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And it's like, well, maybe he would have done that had he thought about it, but Stefan, you're clearly displeased with this man, and you're clearly displeased with this man because he didn't do something that you personally would have done. And I understand that. I understand why that might make you frustrated, where you're just like, this is necessary. This is what you need to do in order to form your beliefs. This is what you have to do. This is what you have to do, right? and it's like, okay, you got a point, but could you stop seeming so school-marmish about it, please? Like, you're like this, what are you doing? How dare you behave that way? Don't you know you have to cite your sources? Don't you know in order to believe something, you have to know everything about it? You have to know the counterpoints and the counter narratives and all this and every single thing about it. You have to know the pros and cons, and if it has no evidence for it, you can't believe it. Stefan, come on, man. You're not gonna win anybody over that way. And he also asked this guy about whether or not he used, like, marijuana, you know, drugs and whatnot, and the guy was like, yeah, I did basically the psychedelics. And it makes me so angry when people are so anti-cannabis, and the reason is because when you look at the suffering in the world and you see what cannabis does as a medicine for certain types of suffering, and you understand why it works and how it works and what it does to your body, you can't say that cannabis is this horrible bad drug that just fucks with your perception, okay? You can't say that. Especially when there's little kids who take it every single day and they don't have these massively horrible side effects or anything like that. They get a little high, and guess what? They live. Instead of having hundreds and hundreds of seizures a week, they live their lives. They don't die. They live instead. So that's one of the reasons why it makes me so angry. Like my sister has epilepsy, and you know, my mom, she was watching a show about the medical benefits of marijuana, and she was angry. She was angry that this type of information had been kept from her when my sister was a child, because my sister didn't have like super bad seizures or anything like that, but she definitely did, and if there was a better way to treat it, my mom would have liked to have known that, you know. So for and this is a big sticking point for Stefan, okay? Because I made a comment, and I made several comments, so, okay, I don't know, I said something, so I said, dude, you need to chill the fuck out, you don't even understand anything he's talking about. I do agree, there is a part in our belief systems which should propel us to try to decrease the suffering of the world, but you can't say there's no other realm. You don't know either, you're so closed off. And what the fuck is with your hatred of cannabis? It's literally just a plant. You're starting to show your own bias. And then I posted, wait, you just said there was no soul. There's a soul now? Because he had said, he was very adamantly said, there's no reincarnation, there's no soul. And then he said something about having a soul, so I was just being a smartass. And then a few minutes later, I said, Stefan, you can believe in a higher realm and do good for the world. Those two things are not exclusionary. It is also not necessary for both to be true of a person for one to be true. And man, hearing you yell like that is like watching someone kick a fucking puppy. The fucking puppy doesn't know why the fuck it made you angry. Show more restraint than that. I used to like to watch you because you made sense in a world that was chaotic, but I don't watch you often anymore. You're so stuck in your own head. You're pushing your own ideology. You're getting so stuck in the things that you think you know. Knowledge is always changing and growing. You're yelling because that person hadn't come to the same conclusions about the world that you have. All you have to do is teach and explain. Instead, you yell. And you know what? If I was that guy and I watched the end of this video after his phone call cut off, I'd probably feel pretty shitty about myself when all I was doing was reaching out for feedback on what I thought was my truth. You need a fucking vacation, you asshole. Anyway, A bit later, he responds to me on my first comment, and he says, I assume it is only the drugs that makes you think you that make you think you have an argument. And so I responded to that with, why do you think that, Stefan? The drugs? Oh, it sounds negative when you say that way. Great deflection. Ignore what I say because you just assume that I'm a druggie. You have no evidence that a higher realm exists, and you can't get around that. You're so angry about it, and it's obviously not a conversation you really want to have. All you wanted to do in that conversation was push your own narrative of the world on him. Stefan, you could have used that opportunity to teach or learn. Instead, you got angry and you started to insult anyone who finds comfort in a higher realm. I also find it interesting that this was the comment of mine that you chose to respond to. Obviously, because I mentioned cannabis, and you saw that as a way to completely dismiss anything I have to say. I can see that in your own mind. You see anyone who engages in drug use as not worthy to be speaking to. It makes me sad that you turned out this way. So, yeah. Not real impressed with Stefan Molyneux right now. He, has really shown himself to be someone different than I thought he was. I really did think that he was, you know, an open-minded sort of person who was really interested in finding truth and whatnot and so on and so forth. I don't know that I can say that anymore about him, you know? Like, I like him, and I think he's, like, almost there, you know, but he's so dismissive of certain ideas and certain concepts that he himself can't prove to himself. So how the fuck is he supposed to? It's like, dude, I can tell you've never had any experience with the types of things that these people are trying to talk about. And by the way, Stefan, you don't need drugs to make you have a religious experience. You really don't. So what's your point? You don't have a good point. You're so stuck on the material world. That's all you see. That's all you think there is. And that's sad to me that you're so locked up. When our own minds, like, quite frankly, here's the thing. Here is the thing. You're so closed off, right? But our own minds make it very clear that there is something beyond this world. Whatever you want to call it, okay? We have another universe in our brains, right? You can do whatever you want in your head, right? You can imagine you're Superman. You can pretend you're talking to aliens. You can pretend you're talking to anyone or anything. That's magnificent. Like, do you think dogs have actively that much control over their consciousness? I don't know. But you can do it. You can, like, sit there and make yourself a little private garden or happy place or whatever and design it and so on and so forth. You can create things in your own mind, and, you know, that's clearly not of this realm. It's clearly something separate, okay? And I don't think it does us any good to be closed off to the concept of a higher realm. I really just don't. Like, what good does that do? Maybe it's not true. Maybe there is no higher realm. Maybe this is all there is. But if the end goal is to get people to act with compassion and to take action and responsibility for their lives and to try to make the world a better place, you have to have a good idea. And some people won't do that in a material world. They won't do it. They'll go, why the fuck should I care about other people's suffering? There's nothing after this. There are people like that out there. And there's some people who just do good regardless. It's just in their nature. That's how they were raised, or so on and so forth. Stefan, I just don't think you know. And you got so angry and heated about this, you don't want to have the discussion. You really just don't. You don't want to know whether or not there is something else out there. And God forbid you'd ever take cannabis. God forbid you'd ever do shrooms or DMT or acid or anything like that, or peyote. Like, you think you know all this stuff, right? You think you know. But I just see you getting angrier and angrier and angrier as time goes on. You get more and more frustrated and worn out. You're like a battery that's draining itself. And, you know, I feel like your spiritual beliefs shouldn't make you feel that way, you know. I don't know if he's ever looked at any sort of videos about the transformative experiences, religious experiences, but there's always this thing where the person changes, and it's almost like it's effortless, right? And it's not effortless. They're actively trying, but because they have to act out, you know, what they're doing, like what they believe spiritually, they have to act out. But it's that spiritual belief that drives them and sustains them and feeds them like a battery. You don't have something substantial enough, Stefan Molyneux, to do that for yourself, because you believe only in the physical realm. And if you think this is just me being drug-addled or so on and so forth because I've done cannabis in the past, like, I don't understand that at all. I don't understand why you think that this modern age of technology is the end-all and be-all. That's kind of sad. It's kind of sad. And the fact that you're not even open to it just shows how closed-minded you've become and how set in your ways. I guess it's just something that happens as you get older. I hope you all have a great day.